Hey there, I got another video here for you all. This video is going to be short and sweet. It's going to be dedicated on how to sideboard with Sabine, namely Yellow Sabine. There are two other versions of Sabine out there. The other one that's really popular is Green Sabine. And today I'm going to be talking through how to sideboard with Yellow Sabine. And I've been kind of known as the person on YouTube pushing this color combination. I think it does have some uniqueness to it that does put it over other matchups a little bit more. And I think it has a little bit more flexibility than some of the other lists. But before I kind of jump into the sideboard, I want to go over a couple of things. I'll put my deck list in the description here, but I've actually made quite a few changes to my Sabine list. You'll see some new cards in here, like some more top end. I think that some of these cards have been really proven to do better than others. And there's also some changes to my main deck in how heavy I am in space. So I'm gonna quickly kind of walk through that. So a couple changes. I took Ezra out. Ezra is a really good card, Ezra Bridger, but unfortunately Ezra often gets countered really easily. There are a lot of turn 3 plays that can ambush into him and kill him profitably. The fact that he doesn't have 4 power really does downplay that card. Also, I am not playing Metal Ceremony, which is a 0-cost card, and that's really why you want Ezra in the deck. And you can basically rip a free spell or free event off the top of your deck, and by not playing that, Ezra loses a lot of value. So maybe Ezra will be playable in the future if there are more 1-cost and 0-cost cards that are powerful enough to play in this deck. And along with Ezra, Chopper came out of the deck. Chopper often got played around where he would get killed, or they would kill my Sabine, or they would kill my Ezra, and he would just be a 1/3 for the rest of the game, and that's just not enough damage to really do anything important in this game. And so Chopper came out of the list as well. I also took out Fighters for Freedom, and I took out a Lothal Insurgent. I missed my H there. And I took out Rebel Assault. I took out one Lothal, and I took out Rebel Assault, and I moved Rebel Assault to the sideboard. Mainly because Rebel Assault is only really good against a couple of things. So, let me go back here. Rebel Assault's really good against the mirror match and against Iden. And so I'm going to go into the sideboard in a little bit about that. And I took Fighters for Freedom out because Fighters for Freedom is just a really weak card in this deck. I'm not playing a lot of red cards. And on top of that, Rogue Operative is the card that replaced it, which does have Saboteur. And instead of being a 3/4 with a bonus ping effect, this one has Raid 2, so it attacks for 4 damage, and that can sometimes make or break the mirror match. So what I ended up putting in are 3 Rogue Operatives for Fighters for Freedom. I put in 2 Attack Pods, and I put in 2 Heroic Sacrifices. So I ended up taking Ezra completely out of the list, and then I was able to kind of fudge the list a little bit by taking out a Lothal and 3 Ezras and Chopper. I was able to put all these other cards in. So now my list has early game, mid game, and late game potential. I also put in 2 Greedos because Greedo is just a more aggressive card in the mirror match. There's a lot of Sabine at my locals. There's a lot of Sabine online. People really wanting to play Sabine in general, just pushing it and pushing that deck as being really cheap to play. So a lot of people at my local game store are going to be playing it. And Greedo is just a more aggressive card. He's a 3/1 for 1. It's the highest power 1-drop in the game. And he actually does have a very relevant ability where I do get that extra 2 damage proc when he dies. So very, very good. I also got rid of Jeddah City because the mirror match is really tough for this deck. And having an extra 5 life and getting rid of Jeddah City feels I pretty much auto win every single mirror match. I've never lost a Sabine mirror match ever. Any color, I just automatically win because I have 5 life. I'm not even kidding. You would have to hand pick a bad hand to really lose. And you just mulligan in anyways. So very, very, very small chance I'll lose any matchups against a green Sabine list or a red Sabine anymore. I think this deck just has too much explosive potential. And now with the attack pod in the list as well, I have late game potential, even though I'm probably going to resource it against Sabine. So let's go into the sideboard here. So right away, I feel like sideboarding is really confusing because let's just go back a little bit. Like, what do you even take out, right? What do you take out, let alone what do you put in your sideboard? When you sideboard in, you don't only add cards to your deck, you remove cards. And so you have to be very careful because a lot of these decks are so tuned to be so synergistic. The moment you kind of change the recipe, you could really throw off a lot of the synergy in the deck. And that is very much true of Sabine, because Sabine has Rebel synergy, she has Heroism synergy, she has 2 cards that deal with Heroism synergy, right? And so that can really mess up the deck. And I think by being this sideboard guide is really to help guide you and to kind of already help you understand why some of these decisions are being made without having to test it yourself. So right out of the gates here, Heroic Sacrifice was actually moved to the main deck because this card does help against the mirror match a little bit, and it does only cost 1. I found that Rebel Assault costing 3 as an off-color card still is a very, very good card, but you don't want to play it unless you need it. And it's really good against Iden and Sabine. The reason why it's good against Iden is Iden wants to do a lot of 1-for-1 removal. And if you're able to attack with 2 units before they can even play 1 removal spell, that's going to help you speed up and have more action economy than your opponent. And you're going to get in that damage with the unit they would have removed on their next action. So it allows you to kind of change the tempo of the game a little bit. And Heroic Sacrifice does exactly what you don't want it to do against control decks. It makes you lose a unit. And control decks, you're essentially playing into the Iden control deck game plan by sacrificing your own units. So you're going to swap out Rebel Assault for Heroic Sacrifice. And in a lot of cases, you'll probably take out the second Heroic Sacrifice for something else. So this card comes out 100% of the time against control matchups. It's in here against the mirror match. It's in here against the Boba matchups because Boba really cares about ambushing stuff in. And if you can Heroic Sacrifice a unit that's already damaged and remove their ambush targets and kind of go space, that's what you're going to want to do with Heroic Sacrifice. And Heroic Sacrifice is really good against the mirror match because it helps you push damage. And a lot of times you just kind of need that final +2 to kind of kill your opponent in the Sabine Mirror, and this is that card. So next is probably the reason why I wanted to make this video, Spark of Rebellion. I think that this is going to be one of the most important cards over the next 3 years. The fact that this is essentially Thoughtseize from Magic the Gathering, it allows you to look at your opponent's hand and take any card on turn 1. That is very, very strong, and I consider it the best Sabine sideboard card in Cunning. I think that this card is going to separate the adults from the kids, honestly, because this card, you need to know the meta and understand what cards are key pieces for your opponent to go off, or what are the counters to Sabine. And this card can just get rid of them by not allowing them to play those cards. And a lot of these mid-range and control decks that are kind of controlling the meta right now, they often rely on top end, and you're able to just remove their Vader, remove their Relentless, remove their Walker, and I'll show those cards in a little bit. Next is kind of what do you take out for this card? You take out Lothal Insurgent. I think that this card is really weak against control decks and really weak against Boba. And so you're going to take those out and maybe a Heroic Sacrifice for 3 Spark of Rebellions. This card is just so good. I can't tell you how many times I've won against Boba decks, top Boba players, because I was able to rip their only answer to me in that moment, and I was able to win a game. So this card is very, very good. And these are the cards you can hit, right? You can take Traitorous, you can take Overwhelming Barrage, you can take Ewing Reinforcement, Darth Vader, the opponent's K2, Cunning, Fet's Fire Spray, Reinforcement Walker. These are all cards you can rip out of their deck or out of their hand before they even play them. And that's why I say this card is going to separate the adults from the kids, because it's really going to separate the people that can know not only what to take out of your deck, but not only what to take out of your opponent's hand, but when you play this card, right? You want to play this card almost always on turn 3, if not turn 4 with the initiative, because if you notice, all of these cards have something in common, except for 1, or 2 of them. They're 4 and up. And so you want to be able to take these cards before your opponent can ramp to it, before they can play it with the initiative and kind of circumvent your hand removal, right? And so most of the time you're going to be taking out Overwhelming Barrage and Traitorous, because those are cards that completely blow you out of the water. All right, so now that you have an understanding why this card is so good, you essentially have a 2-cost card. So you can play this and then play something else that completely takes out any answer your opponent is going to have in hand. And what's really interesting about Spark of Rebellion is that when you have this card, your opponent is probably going to have one of the cards I'm showing on the screen right now. And the reason why is they're going to have a starting hand, and they're going to draw 2 once, twice, 3 times. So they're going to draw, I think, 12 cards. Statistically speaking, they will have probably hit one of these cards if it's in their deck. And they're going to be keeping it because they know Overwhelming Barrage or Traitorous or Ewing Reinforcement are cards, or Cunning are cards that can blow you out of the water when you play Sabine. And so your odds of hitting it are so high. I think out of 10 times of playing Spark of Rebellion on turn 3, I think 1 time out of 10 did I not hit an Overwhelming Barrage or Traitorous, something of the sort, against a Boba Green deck, right? And so it just allows you to really rip through your opponent's answers. And, you know, this is as close as you can get to a counterspell in this game, right? Instead of countering it when they play it, how about you take it out before they even play it? So I cannot, this card is so good. I feel like it looks on the face of it really bad, but I think experienced players are going to get the most value out of this card. Giving aggro decks the ability to counter like this is very dangerous. Again, this card is balanced, I will say, but being able to sideboard it in against key matchups feels really strong. All right, so now that card is out of there, the next card you're going to be sideboarding in is Wolf. Goes in against healing decks, takes out For a Cause I Believe In. You're going to take out For a Cause I Believe In because Wolf is a red card, and you're going to be sideboarding in 3 copies. For a Cause is then going to have really bad odds because it's going to have heroism effects. Now, what's interesting is you're probably going to want to take out For a Cause anyways, because the decks that do a lot of healing, they often have a lot of 1-for-1 removal. So you want to make sure you have a high unit count against these decks so you can kind of overrun them with units, because they're not going to be able to keep up with you playing 2 units a turn. For a Cause is an event, not a unit, so it doesn't really help that game plan. And Wolf is kind of an iffy card, but I've actually had him shut down, 4, 5, 6 restore healing turns, and then my opponent's like, wow, I thought I was going to be able to heal for 6 this turn, now I can't heal for anything, because Wolf triggers when he attacks and when he's played. So you kind of can play him like an event instead of like a unit and stop healing. And he also gets around Sentinel, which is really nice. It's nice to be able to shut down healing against Iden or Krennic decks, or even Luke decks 2 turns in a row with this, and it's not uncommon for that to be the case. The next card is something I've been toying around with, is Azatuk Liberator Gunship. It's a 3/4 with ambush, nothing special, but I bring this in against any deck that's running Star Viper. If you look at the stat line, 3/4 beats 3/3. And the Liberator Gunship is going to stay alive. It ambushes into it without dying. It's a heroism card, so it helps your heroism effects. It essentially functions as another copy of Millennium Falcon in the deck. Instead of being 3, though, it costs 4, and it can ambush in right away. It's just an additional copy to help deal with those Star Vipers. And I found it really good. And then, a lot of times when you disrupt a Star Viper, your opponent probably doesn't have another one. And if they do, you can just sacrifice this damaged one into the second one. They really don't have that many answers against a card like this. And the last card is Change of Heart. I think this card is, unfortunately, it's a legendary, so in paper it's going to be expensive. Sorry, folks, this sideboard isn't cheap. But when you sideboard with this card, the reason why is there's a large uptick in restore decks that rely on healing a lot in the early game and playing late game bombs. And so this helps you steal their restore units. It helps you steal their upgraded units. It helps you steal their bombs like Darth Vader and Relentless and things like that. And I still think this requires further testing, but I think that this card is going to be weird, where your opponent's going to be like, hey, I'm going to drop this 9/9 or 8/8 walker that has restore on it. And instead of them thinking they're going to live for another turn and get in for 8 damage, if you have the initiative, you can just play this card and steal it and then kill them by attacking for 8 on the next action. And that sometimes is just blowout game over. Having the option to play this, and even if your opponent sees it in the deck list, if you're in a tournament, they're going to have to respect it because it's scary. Thinking that my opponent can just steal my tapped unit after my next untap, my ready phase, and if they have the initiative, is really, really scary. And I think this card will allow some blowouts to occur against some of those late game restore decks. I've yet to fully test this, but I've played this card in Boba, in Double Cunning Boba, and it's done wonders for me. And the logic is no different, right? In fact, it's even better for this deck because a lot of times stealing that bomb means that you're not only depriving them of a bomb that can help them heal, you're adding to your attack to your board for one more turn, which is often all you need to end the game. And so this card, I think you take out, you're probably going to take out some of the top end for this card. I'm not totally sure what you take out. I think it's going to be very situational and dependent on the list, but I think you're going to take out Heroic Sacrifices for this card. You're probably going to take out For a Cause I Believe In for this card, because against those grindier matchups, For a Cause can often not help you get there. Your opponent's often healing 3 or 4 turn with some of these decks, and I found that For a Cause really you're going to win these games because you have a massive board and you're just overrunning them, not because you kill them with a burn spell like For a Cause. Excuse me. You might even take out Dodana because Dodana is a little weak in this matchup. I'm not entirely sure because against some of these healing decks, you're going to be sideboarding in Change of Heart, Spark of Rebellion, Wolf. So you're probably going to take out Heroic Sacrifice, For a Cause, and you need to take out 3 more cards. So you might want to take out the Attack Pods and a Dodana to shift up your endgame. But let me know if this video was helpful. I'm planning on doing more of these videos, but I really wanted to do a sideboarding video on Cunning Sabine because this is currently my pet deck that I've been working on, and I want to make this a tier 1 deck. So let me know what you think in the comments. And if you could give me a subscribe, that would be great. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. Huge milestone for the channel. Thank you so much, community. Thank you to everyone who have watched my videos, interacted with them, shared them. This game is amazing. I think that that's something we can all agree on. This game is absolutely amazing, and we have seen this game explode. The first print run of the game is sold out in the United States, and I think maybe even internationally. This game is the next biggest game, and I'm glad to be at the start of it, and I'm glad to do it with all of you. Thank you very much, and have a great day.